Welcome back to the knitting crowd, as well as my friends at yarnspirations.com. I'm your host, Mikey. Today we're going to learn how to knit with Pomp A Doodle. It's a bit of a challenge yarn. It is really best for knitting than it is crochet because you can keep all the stitches active. To get started on this is a little awkward, but then once we get moving on this thing, you'll see that it will just probably loosen up for you and be a better time. So what we have here is the pattern's on the back. And it states that we're using 4 balls total. So 2 balls of the beach house and 2 balls of Aqua. So when you look at the photo, you're going down and back with one color and you let it hold, and then just down and back with the other color and let it hold, and then bring up the original color and go down and back. When you cast on, we're going to cast on a total of 20 stitches, and there's 2 stitches in between each of the pom-poms. When we cast on, it's going to be tight, it's going to be awkward, but then it's going to relax on itself, so you have to trust in the method. Then we're going to do rows 1 and 2 with the color A, which is what we cast it on with. So down and back, so it's purl, knit and purl in between. And then you carry the work after the second, and then do number 3 and 4 with the color B. You go down and back, and then you'll carry that, and then you'll keep alternating between the 2. So you repeat rows number 1 through 4 until it's 22 inches, and then you're going to bind off 2 stitches in between each of the pom-poms. I'm going to highly recommend that you change the knitting needle to a smaller size. You're going to notice in this particular pattern is that the gauge is not important. And the reason for it, it's like sachet. Sachet yarn, if you recall, when you went into the stitch of the sachet, it relaxed to the tension of the yarn itself. This will do the same thing. The pom-poms act as a stopper from it falling apart, and it basically stops onto itself. So to get 2 stitches in between here, when they relax, you're going to notice that they will go to an even distance no matter what size knitting needle you have. So the smaller the knitting needle, the better. So that's what we're going to begin, and I'm going to be using circulars today, and let's begin that journey. Let's begin. I'm going to be using a 4mm size US 6 knitting needle because the gauge is important. The distance between the pom-poms, this project will relax to match that distance, so it doesn't really matter what size knitting needle you use. I find the one that's recommended, 8mm, is too big for me to be able to function properly. So you can change it later if you want to, but for cast on, it's going to be pretty tight. So I'm going to start with a slip knot to begin. And before I finish this and pull it tight, I want to slip in the needle to hold on to it. And I want to push this closest to the first pom-pom that is on the end of the strand. So, and kind of don't be worried about pulling it a little bit tight so that you have more of this distance to work with. I'm going to turn this in my hands. So now I'm going to put another stitch in between this pom-pom and this one. So there will always be 2 stitches in between each pom-pom all the way through the project. So when I go to wrap, I'm just doing like a knit stitch formation, and I'm doing a twist and transfer method. So just keep the pom-pom out of your way so you can physically see the stitches. And once you have confirmed it's on there, just bring it onto the next needle and pull up slack. Okay, don't be scared about that. And I'm going to do a twist and transfer. So if you want to see this without pom-pom yarn, we have videos for that. And you're just going to take this needle here that I'm pointing to and come up underneath this needle and secure on and push it on. So the next 2 stitches will be on this strand here. So let this pom-pom rest where it is and worry about these. So when you go in, you're just going to let this pom-pom stay out of the way. Just use your hands to kind of hold it back, and just use this strand here and wrap and bring it through. And then put it onto this other needle with the twist and transfer. And now you're going to use the remaining of the slack here to do the next one. So just going in and wrap. This requires a bit of practice, so if you're frustrated at all, you can leave me a comment, how you feeling about it. I don't offer counseling, but you know, I can sympathize. So what we have is that you're going to transfer this. So now you have 2 out of 20 stitches that you have. So the next 2 will be here. So I'll demonstrate one more time. So going in, so let this pom-pom, use your hands just to kind of hold it back and just get this strand here. pull up a little bit of slack and transfer on, and then do the next section of the same area. And I want you to keep doing this, and you're going to notice you're going to get yourself a little bit looser as you're getting more comfortable. And so it'll get easier. This is my actually 5th time trying to film this. So just letting you know that it does take a bit of practice to be consistent, and also for you to see the stitches on camera. So the next set of stitches will be here. And so then you'll continue to do the same manner. So do it until you can count 20 of these stitches across. Okay, so now I have completed all the way across. So are you feeling homicidal yet? If you've never met me before, I'm pretty informal with the teaching, so just go with it, right? So I have 20 stitches on here. So once you push your pom-poms back, you can count it. Everything's in sets of 2. So now we're going to officially start row number 1. And in row number 1, what we're going to do is we're going to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So in between each of the pom-poms, you'll have knit and purl. Just remember that. And so you'll start off and you're going to knit. So just let this pom-pom, use your hands just to hold it behind, and you're going to knit the first one. You're going to notice it's going to get a lot more easier and looser for you. So you're going to knit the first one, so a knit stitch, and then you're going to do a purl. So dragging this in between the goalposts, in between, bring it to the front, and purl. Okay, and then that will conclude the space in between the last pom-pom and this one, and just slide off. So let that pom-pom just get out of the way, and you're not going to worry about it. So now you're going to knit the next one, so just take it through, and then you're going to use the yarn strand after that pom-pom to knit the next one. And then what's the next stitch? It's a purl. So you're going to take the remaining of that strand and purl. So come in between and do your purl stitch. Try crocheting with this yarn. Okay, so you're going to then knit the next one. So take it back through, and you're going to use the strand after the pom-pom, and you're going to knit. So using your hands, kind of hold that pom-pom in behind and knit. And then you're going to purl. So you're going to take that remaining strand, bring it through the front, and purl. And I need you to do this all the way across. So your last stitch will be a purl stitch, because everything's in groups of 2, right? So just keep sliding it up and continue all the way across. So I'm coming to the very end, and I got one more stitch to do. So I got my knit stitch and then a purl. I think this should almost be a game on Squid Game. If you don't get across fast enough, you will be eliminated. So we're gonna turn our work and then begin. And look how thick and fluffy that is already. So let's turn and let's begin row number 2. So it's exactly what you just learned. Okay, so this is the yarn that was leading here, so you have to start here. Okay, right where I'm pointing. So you start with a knit stitch, and again, just hold this yarn in behind, or the pom-pom in behind, and knit. And it's like with all of my knitting that I've noticed is that the cast on process can be pretty rough for me, but once I get moving on it, it gets a lot easier. So in my hands, it feels a lot more looser than it was. Don't tell anybody though. And it's sliding on and off my needles like butter. So just remember, it's always 2 stitches between each pom-pom. So as soon as you got that 2, just push the pom-pom to the back and continue to knit and purl all the way across. This is row number 2. So I'm coming to the last 2 stitches on row number 2. So it technically says to change the yarn over. So you're not gonna get rid of this yarn. You're just gonna let it hold if you want to. And you're knitting and purling right to the end. So if you want to just keep the same color, you can. So if you wanted to do a secondary color, all you'll just do is that you'll grab just the other pom-pom color, and then you'll start knitting immediately, like as if it's a new color completely, or like as if it's regular yarn. So what I want to do is that I just want to continue to go back and forth. You're going to notice that it's being extra fluffy, and now it's really quite squishy. And eventually what's going to happen is that these balls or pom-poms are going to look organized. Okay, so that's something that will happen. You just got to get a few more rows in. So let me do a few more rows, and then I'll meet you back here in just a moment. So now I have several rows done, and now you can see that the baubles or the pom-poms are starting to line up with each other. Isn't that neat? So you can just stretch it out and do what you need to do. So what happens if you run out of yarn? So let's just cover that basis here. So let's just say we're getting close to the end, and let's purposely cut this. So see the distance here? I'm going to want to match that. So I'm going to just cut it here. Let's just say this is a brand new yarn ball. And what I want to do is that I want to match that distance here with the new type. And what they do in the factory is they do what is called as a weaver's knot. So they cross over like this, and then they take this one and up and underneath. This is why those knots are hard to get out. Okay, so now just give it a little bit more slack. Take this one and go over top of this one. Okay, so you're over top. And then wiggle this one around underneath and through. This knot is virtually impossible to get out once it's in. Okay, and then you pull, and you want the distance to be pretty close to what you already had. And because the strand is inside the pom-pom, so you see it's pretty close, because it's inside this here, you're never going to see that. So now you can just tug on it, tight, 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 and then just cut. So if you have to change a ball, you can change it midway. You don't have to wait till the end of a row, like that. Okay, and you will never see that. So let's, you're gonna go back and forth till you get to the distance you want. It's exceptionally thick. Like, look at it, it's double-sided. That's something I didn't expect, so that's kind of neat. And what I'm gonna do is show you how to cast off in case you're ready for that. So let's begin to cast off, and I'm looking at here, this distance here is going to be used for 2 stitches, and we're gonna be doing as a bind off. So you're gonna bind off in the same way that you've been knitting across. So the first one is gonna be a knit stitch. Okay, so you come after this pom-pom, so hold it in behind and wrap and pull through. And then the next one, if you recall, just slide off. The next one that you have is going to be a purl. So bring the yarn in between and do a purl. Now, once that's off, this is where the fun begins. So you're going to look at this here, and you're going to take this strand and go right up over the edge, holding this one back. The way that it's easiest to do it, use the tension here to kind of hold this one from sliding off the edge. So just try it first, just kind of using your finger just to kind of keep things stable, and pick this one up and go right up over top, keeping the other one that's existing onto the needle. And that's just one bind off that you did. So now you're going to keep on going. So then the next one is a knit stitch. So just put the yarn in behind, and you're going to knit. So the next one, knit and purl. So just keep this together. But this time now, you already have the other one here. So move that over and slide off. This takes a bit of practice, so if you find it frustrating, yeah, you're in my club. So the next one has to be a purl, so move the yarn in front first and purl. Okay, and you have your 2 back on the needles, and you take the first one and up and over. I'm just going to leave this real quickly. If you decide that you just want to do a knit stitch bind off, you can. Because you can't see the stitches, I don't know if it really matters at all. And it doesn't say to specifically do like knit purl. So usually you would if you could really see the yarn strands, but you can't. It's all just pom-pom work. So if you find that's easier, just by all means, just go for it. I'm going to show you another tip that I'm a crocheter naturally, as most of you know. So I'm just knitting that next step. So just knitting to do the cast off. And I've been noticing that it's been easier for me to kind of cast off with my crochet hook. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just gonna pinch things and hold the 2 stitches. Insert my hook into the first one, and grab this one and pull through. It's just easier. Release that and put the knitting needle back in and continue along. So there's another tip for you. So eventually you're going to come to the end of the line. So this is the last loop. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut over here. And I'm going to insert that strand into this loop. This will prevent it from untangling from itself, and pull in. And what I'm going to do then with the tapestry needle is that I'm going to secure that so that it's stuck inside as a knot. If you have better ways, of course, please exercise that. Okay, once it's in, then you're just going to secure it and let it tie itself onto itself. It's harder to demonstrate with this fluffy yarn, but we're going to get through it. And I want to make sure that I can tie it into a knot. So if you have a crochet hook, it might be a lot easier for you. Just to kind of spin things around and just to be able to get itself into a knot. Okay, now that it's tied into a knot, you're good to go. So now you can stretch it out. And the gauge wasn't mattering, right? Because everything is going to stretch to those strands that you had. And you can see that the pom-poms are naturally line themselves up properly. And it's neat. So the starting strand, what you're going to want to do is put that onto a tapestry needle and then just dive it into the inside of the stitchwork. If you peel it back, you can see the framework of there. And so then, therefore, you'll get rid of that in that way as well. But I would use a tapestry needle or a crochet hook just to pull that into the project. And again, if you can use your hook, you can have that tie onto itself as well. And then you can leave the tail on the inside of the project just like that. So this would be a great way to try this yarn if you're interested in it. I think it's really neat, exceptionally thick as well. I don't even know how thick that is. It's like 2 inches, really generous. And this is a really neat idea. So this is it for today. We hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.